Say we're live, and this, excuse me if you're seeing this and seeing some fumbles here, but this is my first time on with Meeple Marketing and doing the countdown to launch. And today I have Reed Mascola with me. Although before I go into you, Reed, I do apologize for cutting there. I'm Roberto. Nalin asked me to step in for her and help. And I like just.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, cut out a little bit there, Roberto.
Okay. Are you able to hear me okay?
So I heard the first part. So thanks for having me, Roberto. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying yes to this. This was a quick shift over, but let's get right into you, Reed. First and foremost, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Reed Mascola. I am the owner of Paranoia Rising Games, which I founded in 2018. Basically pursuing kind of, my hobby, which is board game design, as many others have. And specifically in the kind of social deduction sphere. So not so much pure social deduction, but how can I bring social deduction into other styles of game? Because that's a passion of mine. I love a lot of games that have some social deduction, some other strategic elements, and I love blending all that together.
Cool. Have you played The Thing, Outpost 31?
I have not. I'll check it out. I have Who Goes There, which is also based on The Thing.
Awesome. It's so like that. It adds extra people, like extra traders, as the rounds progress, and it just brings the social deduction to a whole new level. It's wonderful. Absolutely try it out when you can. But Reed, we're here because you have something coming up soon. So tell us more about the game that you have. What's the name, and tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you've seen the cover. Well, probably you might have seen the cover before, but here's Vigilante. So it's coming to Kickstarter on March 30th. So just a week away, basically. And it's a superhero themed game where basically you build a team of heroes, and each player has their own identity. So each player kind of has their own mastermind with their own goals, and you have to try and figure out who might be on your side and who might not be, and complete your secret mission to win the game.
Cool. Was there a game that kind of was the catalyst to bring you over to game design?
Yeah, for sure. I think, strangely enough, I think like if I look at the earliest game that I designed, it was actually based on Talisman, which is strange to say these days because Talisman is so like,
yeah, that's
it's like kind of mainstream, but kind of not. But actually, if I look at more modern board games, definitely Dead of Winter had a huge inspiration for me, or was a huge inspiration for Vigilante.
Okay.
I love what they did in that game.
Awesome. And how I have played Dead of Winter. Does Vigilante play kind of like Dead of Winter?
It's actually, so it's quite a bit different, I would say. Definitely everyone has their own secret mission, and there are scenarios. And actually what I really liked about having secret missions and scenarios is that the blend of that and all the characters and everything else kind of in Dead of Winter made for a lot of replayability. So I'm definitely, Vigilante's the same in that respect, where we've got different scenarios, you can try out different things, different types of missions that you'll get kind of randomized at the beginning of the game. So that's kind of where I would say it's most similar. Okay. But the mechanically quite a bit different.
Cool. So it's a fresh game every time you play. Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get into game design?
So I just kind of started, I've always kind of thought, or I've always kind of found, I was like, it would be really nice if this were a game, but I couldn't find that game. And I think about 10 years ago, maybe even more, I was really into the Pokemon trading card game. And even before that, I was into all the Decipher trading card games. And I was like, there's not a good Pokemon board game out there. I mean, I have Master Trainer. I'm not sure if you've ever played that.
I haven't.
Okay, it's I mean it's a classic kind of roll and move by Pokemon. And I was like, Talisman has some pretty interesting mechanics that would tie in well to that. So I did kind of a weird blend of Pokemon and Talisman. That was the very first thing that I ever did, but that I wasn't really serious about it at that point. I was just getting people to play it and get their feedback. So yeah, so I think that's probably where that started, where that bug started, and then just coming up with trying to find gaps in what's out there, things that I wanted to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Kind of a side question from the Pokemon board game there. Do you put the soundtrack on in the background to create some ambiance? Because we played Dinosaur Island last night, and a certain soundtrack was on in the background while we were playing with those little dinos.
That's amazing. I haven't. I don't think so, because Pokemon is very it's very active music. So like it's a little too much, I think.
It'll get really intense at the table.
Yeah.
Having it on. Yeah.
But like Batman, like if I play a Batman themed game, like throwing the Dark Knight soundtrack on is awesome.
Cool. That's ambient music right there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you didn't find, or you're looking for that space for this game to be on the table, and then you decided to make the game. So that's what compelled for you, I'm gonna say, is for you to make this game, because you wanted to make it. There wasn't a game out there like that. You wanted to make it and bring it to everyone else's table. Does that sound? That's what I'm getting at.
That's 100% accurate. And if you think about all the superhero games out there, you've got, and I've got a bunch of them. You've got DC Deck Building, you've got Marvel Legendary, you've got Gotham City Chronicles, and in a lot of media now, you see a lot of cool TV shows where they've built up a team of characters. Even movies, like you look at Avengers or Justice League. I didn't really feel there was a game out there that really gave that kind of team, the cohesion, the synergy of a team working together. So that's what I really wanted to go for in Vigilante.
Okay.
And social deduction, social deduction is something that I love. And it's part of Vigilante, the base game, but I've actually got another game coming out later on that's just going to be pure co-op that uses the same core mechanics.
Cool. I like the sound of that. So it sounds like we'll be doing another one of these.
Hopefully, yeah.
Awesome. So what are you most proud of with this game of Vigilante?
So definitely, we talked a little bit about the replayability. I love the combos you can make. I love that there's certain cards that work well together, and you kind of have to discover those on your own. There's different ways of playing the game, so different decisions you can make. If you're evil, are you going to fight the easy villains to make the good players fight the harder villains? Or are you going to hire this mercenary to take out their hero? You've got all these different choices you can make. It's basically just about finding what makes the most sense. I'm also, definitely proud of kind of the diversity that I've brought into the game. There's a lot of different characters, different backgrounds. I don't know of any other games that have a drag queen in them.
That's awesome.
I've got one guy that's part of the disabled community, just trying to have some representation in the game, so people can relate to the characters.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for doing that. That sounds fantastic. How did you go into the art of Vigilante?
So the art, I really wanted kind of more of a grounded look, more kind of gritty, similar to how kind of the Dark Knight trilogy went. Not as dark, I would say, but more realistic look. Not so much kind of the classic comic book style, which seems to be kind of the more prevalent way to go, which is cool. I just think there's a lot of games that do that. I went about and found a couple of artists, really looked at a lot of different portfolios and found some that were the right fit.
Cool. Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask you as well. I've never made a game before. Does artwork come after playtesting, or is it kind of in between?
So I think the recommended approach is, yes, it comes after playtesting. But for me, I dove into it head first and just bought art. I'm like, I'm going to create this character. their ability might differ later on. That's not a big deal. So I bought the art, more or less a lot of it up front. I also thought from a design standpoint, it was easier to get people that were willing to play a game that looked good. So that's kind of the advantage for buying the art first. Definitely not recommended if you're planning on pitching it. So for me, I knew as the second I bought art, I'm going to have to carry this across the finish line. But if you're looking to pitch it to publishers, definitely don't buy art, because they might just redo the art anyways.
Makes sense. I like your comment about having good art before, well, as a catalyst to play a game, because personally, in my experience, I'll look through several Kickstarters, and if I click on the page, I'm like, nah, just the very first thing I see, I'm like, if this doesn't look appealing to me, I'm just gonna go to the next thing. When I saw your preview, and thank you for letting me see your preview, I was like, this is awesome. It's gritty. It's down to earth. Like it's solid art, and I do like the art in Vigilante. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, and definitely some great artists that have collaborated with. So
awesome.
So, yeah. And design, I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but graphic design is such a huge part of this too. And actually, you'll notice if you look back at my old campaign, and I did cancel and relaunch, and this is a relaunch of my previous campaign, but the old one, I did the graphic design myself. I think at that point, I didn't really understand the importance of graphic design. But if you look at that and you look at the new, like I redid everything. You look at the new graphic design, it makes such a huge difference. And I think for board game designers everywhere, it really looking at your fonts, looking how things are laid out is such an important thing that I think a lot of people maybe miss the mark and just kind of need to ask around and get other people to give them feedback.
Cool. That actually leads me right into my next question for you, Reed, is what are some of the challenges or failures that you've faced along this path, and how did you overcome said challenges?
Definitely. That's a great question. Graphic design, I mentioned. Absolutely make sure the graphic design is competitive. It's great to do things yourself, but if you're not like a professional, it's probably a good idea to hire a professional. Another challenge, definitely, and this is something I addressed with the new campaign versus the old, is my funding goals. So as a first-time creator, definitely you kind of go into it, and there are a lot of people that are risk averse and don't want to back a first-time creator. So you need to set a fairly modest goal. So I've moved my goalpost from $35,000 to $10,000. That's Canadian for reference. But the reason why it was 35 is you get different manufacturers with different minimum order quantities. So I quoted a bunch, and with the assumption that I would have to print 1,500, and that's why my goal was so high. And I think looking at a high goal as a backer, and I have backed like over 100 games, is that it's a little intimidating. And you look at that and you think, okay, well, it's only here, so it's probably not going to fund, so I'm not going to back you. But if it's a modest goal, and I did go out and find some that could do 500 minimum order quantities, then yeah, I think people are going to be more likely to back.
That's a great point. And when you see it, this big number, you're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of think like maybe their head is in the clouds, and probably people thought of that about me the first time around. But I've learned, and hopefully those out there that make the same mistake learn from that too.
Yeah. So what was it like then, adjusting your mentality going from 35 to 10?
It was just a lot of number crunching. Definitely reaching out to new manufacturers, seeing what was out there. Obviously, you still want to go with someone who's credible, who's worked on games that I've recognized personally. But yeah, it's definitely it's a lot of number crunching at that point. And I think you look at goals, and I've seen a lot of good discussion about this lately. Is people set their goals, and the expectation, I think, of the general public is that's how much money you need to produce and ship the game. That's not always the case. So a lot of self-publishers will put their own capital on the line as well. So for instance, for me, I know that probably printing and shipping all of these games is going to be 20,000, but I'm going to put 10,000 of my own into that. So I only need a goal of 10,000. If I get more than that, great. And if I can print 1,000 or 1,500 copies, the unit costs go down, so I can offer more content in the game. And therefore, I mean, stretch goals and that, yeah, it actually makes sense within the scope of my campaign.
Okay, so you're your own angel investor.
I am, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. As far as stretch goals go, how do you decide what to put out for stretch goals?
So I think you kind of look at a couple of things they're a little bit bigger, and it's interesting because I've done so much with the game already, and basically where the game was at last year, I've already added a lot of content to the game. So it's already starting in a pretty good place. But as kind of a sneak peek, one of my stretch goals is a first player miniature of one of the characters. So you can upgrade to a first player miniature, but to produce that is going to cost me money because I have to pay for tooling, I have to pay for the unit cost of that. So I kind of set the benchmarks around the bigger things, and then I add smaller things like adding cards, adding characters as just kind of intermediary steps to make it exciting.
Okay. Yeah. Can you tell us maybe how many stretch goals you may have in mind for your campaign?
Yeah, sure. I've got roughly, I want to say about 10 or 12 in mind right now. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And then like to what you said, to your point of some of them are bigger and then you can kind of fill some in between.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Cool. That's awesome. Is there an expansion already that you have situated that'll be out for the next time?
Yeah. So the plan is actually, so after Vigilante's out, deliver to backers, because I think that's an important thing is once people have the game, now I can start potentially putting my other game out. Is Vigilante story mode. And story mode is cooperative. It's a cooperative legacy style game that's based kind of in different chapters. And each chapter is slightly different than the last. And they all have little, like, the core mechanics are the same, but there's little gameplay tweaks. And you build up a team of heroes and you carry them through kind of in the same way you would play Mass Effect. And if if a certain character dies, they're not coming back in the next in Mass Effect 2, for instance. Yeah. So everything you do has an impact on the following chapter. But I also want to make sure there's replayability. So I want to make sure that the cooperative scenarios can be replayable, at least a few of them.
That sounds fantastic. I know off the top of my head a couple people who are going to love that game mode. That's fantastic. So actually, that leads me into another question that I have for you. Where do you get your ideas for your games? Because you have Vigilante, you have another game that you have teased us with. Mm-hmm. From, let's say, your original Kickstarter and you coming up with all this other content, like what goes through your mind to add to your game or to just create a game?
Yeah, a lot of it is, so I try to create kind of theme first. So I think about what theme would be interesting, and I make sure that the mechanics fit into the theme. But of course, I have to make sure the mechanics all play very smoothly. But that all comes out in playtesting. So with Vigilante specifically, I mean, I had actually, over the last like decade or so, this storyline kind of was forming in my head. And this will come out more so with story mode once you've got the chapters, because each chapter has its own kind of backstory. But originally I was thinking maybe I should just write a book and do that. But I think board games are a better creative outlet.
Let us play the story, man. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
And even, I've got, I mean, a couple others. There's one that I co-designed with a friend of mine that is kind of like 2 Rooms and a Boom, but real time.
Oh.
Well, more real time in the sense that there's not rounds where you've got to trade people back and forth into the different rooms, for those of you that have played. But yeah, so a couple of things on the go for sure.
Cool. And what inspires you to create said games that you are going to put out?
I think the inspiration, at least for me, to create it myself and kind of self-publish is the creative freedom that comes with that. Being able to make decisions quickly and being able to listen to basically listen to the fans or people that are interested in the game and just understand what they want to see, especially in playtesting, being able to make decisions like that. If a player says this moves too slowly, just being able to change it. I think that's what I like the most about kind of self-publishing and creating.
Excellent. And you've mentioned playtesting a lot, actually. What was that? How long was playtesting for Vigilante like?
So this is the thing. It's been almost, I want to say it's almost been 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not a short game, right? It's like about an hour and a half. So it's about the same kind of time you would expect to put into like Dead of Winter or Tapestry or one of those other games. And it's much easier to play test a 2-player 15-minute party game.
This is true.
You need about the same amount of plays. So it's taken a very long time. The game has evolved so much, and it's in a really good place now. I did blind play testing. I basically had my own rulebook, used the blind play testing, put notes in, and then I sent all of that off to a professional because I don't read rulebooks myself. I'm the worst when it comes to rulebooks. So I'm like, I'm going to get somebody that actually knows how to do this.
Yeah. There should be a support group for people like us because I watch videos.
Yeah.
And if I check the rule book and like, this is not what they said in the video, I'm going by what the video says, even if the rule book says it right there in ink. Like, nah, I'm just going to watch it and see what happens.
Nothing I dislike more than opening a rule book to like figure out what this icon means or
yeah. I don't got time for that. I just want to play the game. The game. Were there cards that you found when you play testing that were just completely broken?
Mm-hmm. There's a raccoon in my game that is an equipment that searches cards out of the trash. Very thematic. Basically, the first time you'd play a card, you'd get to basically take it back into your hand every round. And it was fun, but it was broken. So I had to just kind of nerf it a little bit. Still make it really good, but a couple cards like that have definitely come out. And underbalanced cards, right? You also don't want to have cards that are just worthless that nobody's ever going to use.
I mean, at 5 years, like, I mean, I can imagine. Well, you said 5 years in my mind, like doing a card-based game and seeing what triggers what and different combination of cards. Like, there seems to be a lot there, and great work being able to get this to where it is now. Because I'm not sure if I personally would have the patience to see how those different card combinations play out for as long as you have had.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So when do you launch?
So I'm launching on March 30th, so just a week from now.
Oh, nice. That's some good stuff right there. So can you go over the price structure as to how much it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the game, I'm keeping it relatively simple in the tiers. So I've essentially just got the kind of the backer level, so the hero tier, which is just a copy of the game. And I've got the retailer pledge level for any brick and mortar retailers. And basically all the Kickstarter goals that are unlocked, so stretch goals, those will all be included in the basically in the regular tier. So it's $62.95 Canadian, which is a lot less American, depending on the exchange rate. And yeah, that's about it. I kept it simple. I didn't put in a deluxe. I know definitely there's been demand for that. But I mean, what I see, at least as a backer, is I see most people tend to go for the deluxe anyways.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just have my game be represented kind of in its best form for everyone.
That's another great point. Like, I'm not that it's frustrating. Well, it is slightly frustrating. Like when a publisher puts out a game for retail where you completely miss out on it in a Kickstarter to get all the fancy components and whatnot. It's almost like, man, I wish I had done that, right? And you get the FOMO. So it's cool that you're able to just do a straight deluxe um, game right from Kickstarter versus a retail and then going in for the deluxe. Yeah.
Yeah, I backed Rising. Or sorry, no, I didn't back Rising Sun. I bought Rising Sun retail. And by the way, I love Rising Sun. Definitely in my top 10. But when I bought the retail, I'm like, where's that?
Yeah, yeah, right.
So I ended up buying a Kickstarter version from somebody else, and I think I sold my retail version at a bring and buy because I'm just like, I gotta have the plastic bits. I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. It just, I think it's, you get to the table and you just have the experience of manipulating different things that, well, just it's a sensory thing, right? So getting nice plastic pieces or minis or upgraded coins or just anything like that just adds to the experience of being at the table.
Definitely.
So we actually purchased Rising Sun at our local game store, and it was a Kickstarter version.
Nice.
It was a review copy. Someone sold it to them, and we got it on the cheap, and it was all still completely wrapped up. And I'm like, yes, this is what's up, because I got those turtles. I loved those little.
Oh, I love the turtles.
Fun,
yeah,
right?
Turtles are amazing.
Yeah. So, out of curiosity, what games are you playing right now?
So it's tricky right now because it's just me and my partner, so we're limited to 2-player games, and I'm a big social deduction fan. So I guess actually the big thing is I've got a werewolf group, so it's called Thursday Wolfers, and we get together every Thursday. We play Zoom Werewolf, and
Cool.
it's a great time. But otherwise, mostly just Vigilante. Got a play in of Tapestry recently. Got a play in of Dead of Winter. Some deck building games. Not too much. I mean, definitely collecting a lot of dust back there because I enjoy games more so at like 3, 4, 5, 6-player counts.
Yeah, especially with the social deduction, you can't be like, it's you every single time. It's not
yeah, it's you. It's a 2-player game. It's you.
it's like the Spider-Man meme where it's just like, yeah, you guys. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Reed, for spending some time with me this afternoon. And I'm really excited for March 30th, which is when Vigilante launches. Be on the lookout for that on Kickstarter. But until we do this again, and I really feel like we are going to be doing this again, happy gaming.
Thanks, Roberto. Pleasure being here.